Let's be honest. Jimmy grins. You've played the same tough guy 50 times. Do you ever worry people will forget you once the punching stops? The crowd laughs. Loud, eager. Cameras zoom in on Jason Statham's face. He sits still in the chair, expression unreadable. Black blazer, black jeans. Calm, focused. But the burn is real and public. Jimmy waves his cue cards like a weapon. Look, I'm not trying to be rude, he says, but $100 million net worth, no Oscars, and your last 3 movies bombed. Can we still call you a movie star? Or just a guy who does his own stunts? More laughter. Jason's jaw tightens ever so slightly. Still no reply. Not yet. The audience loves it, until a few start noticing Jason's silence is not amused. It is measured. Cut to backstage. Jason's longtime stunt coordinator folds his arms, whispering to a producer. He's pushing it. Jason won't laugh this off. Jimmy keeps going. Come on, man. One expression, one black t-shirt, and 0 character arcs. If action stars had retirement homes, you'd be the first guy checking in. The insult lands like a slap. The live audience erupts again, but this time the sound is strained, like they are laughing because they are supposed to. Jason slowly adjusts in his seat, crosses his ankle over his knee, sits forward, just an inch. Jimmy notices. Touchy, are we? He smirks, voice sweetly sharp. Hey, I'm just reading what the internet says. Jason leans closer to the desk, hands folded, gaze locked. Still no words. But something in the air shifts. The audience feels it. Attention like steel wire pulling tighter. One breath too deep, and it might snap. Even Jimmy falters just a little, his eyes flicking to the producer's corner, then back. Jason finally speaks, voice like gravel cooled in ice. You finished. The entire room freezes. Phones lift. Cameras flash. Every ear tunes in. Jimmy smirks again, trying to pivot. Oh, relax, man. We're just having a little fun. Jason's reply is flat. So was I. Until this turned into a punchline audition. The laughter stops cold. Backstage, Jason Statham adjusted the leather strap of a bracelet engraved with a date no one in the studio cared about. He had come to honor someone. They were there for blood. The studio was a machine, gears greased with applause signs, audience cues, and polished banter. Lights blazed down like interrogation lamps over a sleek midnight blue stage. Behind the desk sat Jimmy Kimmel, flipping through his cards, lips twitching with anticipation. The room buzzed, not with admiration, but hunger. Tonight was different. Jason had not appeared on a major talk show in 2 years. No red carpet strolls. No promo junkets. No podcasts. He had disappeared after wrapping an indie crime drama with a modest budget and 0 explosions. No one expected him to return. Not until now. And even now, he had not planned to. But the film's young director had begged him, just one late-night spot, please. We need eyes. Jason owed the kid. So he agreed. No publicist. No entourage. Just himself, and the memory of someone who had once told him, do not speak to be loud. Speak only if it matters. Backstage, a producer leaned into Jimmy's earpiece. Push him early. Net worth. Washed up. Hit the nerve. Internet eats it up. Jimmy smirked. You got it. In the green room, Jason sat in silence. His outfit was unassuming. Dark gray button-down, sleeves rolled once, black jeans, plain boots. His expression? Difficult to read. But sharp eyes might catch it, the way he flexed his fingers slowly, as if warming them for something harder than applause. The audience was not filled with longtime fans or movie buffs. Instead, rows of young influencers, TikTokers, and lifestyle bloggers sipped sparkling water and scrolled their phones, waiting for a moment to capture. They had not grown up watching The Transporter. They had grown up mocking it. The applause sign lit. The band struck a cheer. Jimmy bounced into frame with his signature smirk. Ladies and gentlemen, Our guest tonight is Hollywood's favorite action man. He's punched bad guys in suits, driven more autos than a dealership, and made scowling fashionable again, Jason Statham. Cheers. Not wild. Not fake. But controlled. Like a crowd clapping because they were told this mattered. Jason walked in. Come. No wave. He took his seat with a nod, one leg over the other. Jimmy leaned in with a grin that stretched too far. So, Jason. Great to have you back. Long time. 2 years off the radar. Jason's nod was tight. Needed space. Jimmy chuckled. What did you do with all that space? Still got 100 million lying around. The audience laughed. Jason didn't. Jimmy continued without pause, pulling out the next card, bold words flashing briefly under the desk light. Washed up, flops, formulaic. Now look, I say this with love, but how many more gruff one-liners are left in the tank? I mean, even John Wick's dog took a break. A few louder laughs. Jason tilted his head, watching Jimmy. Not smiling, just observing. The host pressed forward. You've had what, 3 movies in a row underperform? Critics saying your roles are just recycled, tough guy growls. What's your take? Are you the last real action hero, or the last guy who hasn't figured out how to evolve? A beat. Jason's hand moved to his bracelet. A faint rub of his thumb over the engraving. Still no reply. Jimmy lifted another card, flashing it like a game show prompt. Let's talk numbers. 100 million net worth. Not bad. But I gotta ask, where'd the rest go? Did you buy a mountain fortress? Or just too many leather jackets? Even louder laughter. A guy in the second row shouted, he still wears the same boots in every movie. Jason's mouth curved. Not into a smile, but something tighter. He looked at Jimmy now, fully. You finished? He asked, voice low. Oh, not yet, Jimmy said brightly. We've got memes coming up. Audience polls. Maybe even a quick stunt challenge. You know, to spice it up. Behind the scenes, a camera operator zoomed in on Jason's face. What they captured was not fury. It was stillness. Dangerous stillness. The kind that made people lean in closer. Not for answers, but for survival. The atmosphere shifted slightly. Not yet uncomfortable, but uncertain. Jason was not playing along. And yet he had not pushed back either. Not yet. Backstage, another producer whispered to the control booth. We've got him. His silence is gold. But they did not notice the small shift in Jason's jaw. Or how his eyes drifted, just for a second, to the cue cards in Jimmy's hand. Bold letters. Cheap punches. Manufactured conflict. The bracelet tightened around his wrist. He straightened slightly in the chair. The audience could feel it, even if they could not name it. Something real was settling into the air. A woman in the second row lowered her phone. A man leaned forward in his seat. Jimmy, unaware, pulled the next card. Tell me, Jason, you ever wonder if your time's up? Like, there's a new batch of action stars out there now. Chris this, Hemsworth that. Don't you think it's time to pass the torch? That was when the lights seemed to flicker, not literally, but rhythmically. As if the room had stopped breathing. Jason leaned forward slightly. Not aggressive. Just focused. Locked in. I didn't come here for a torch, he said. Jimmy blinked. Sorry, what? I didn't come here to pass anything, Jason repeated. But I'm starting to think. Maybe you need something to hold on to. The crowd laughed nervously, unsure if it was a joke or a warning. Suspense beat. The camera cuts to a slow zoom, Jason's stare burning through the glare of the stage lights. Jimmy glances down at his cards. The next one says, midlife crisis role. But he hesitates. For the first time, the smirk slips. He came to promote. Instead, he was put on trial, with jokes as the jury. The laugh sign flashed again overhead, and this time it felt like a command. Jimmy Kimmel leaned forward with that trademark grin, cards in hand, voice syrupy with mock charm. So, Jason, you ever tried acting, or just flexing your jawline and squinting harder? Laughter erupted. A few in the front row howled. Jason Statham, seated under the searing studio lights, did not flinch. Dressed in a plain black suit, crisp collar open, hands folded, his face stayed still. His reply came flat but firm. Sometimes less is more. Oh yeah. Jimmy chuckled. That your Oscar strategy? 14 shoot MUPS. 0 trophies. Just bad luck. More laughter. Even the band guy chuckled. Jason looked off to the side for a second. His jaw tightened, but only for a moment. Kimmel shuffled his cards theatrically. Let's take a walk down Rotten Tomatoes Lane, shall we? The screen behind them lit up with a collage of movie posters. A massive red tomato splattered across titles like Parker, Wrath of Man, Mechanic Resurrection. The average rating glowed underneath, 32%. Groans and giggles mixed across the crowd. Jimmy turned back to Jason. What's it feel like to shoot blanks for a decade? A few gasped. Even more laughed. A producer backstage made a slicing motion to tone it down. Jimmy ignored it. Jason's hands tightened in his lap, just slightly. His voice was colder this time. I don't measure worth in critics' decimals. But in box office receipts, right? Jimmy quipped, already flipping to the next card. Let's talk net worth. You made, what, $100 million in 20 years? Meanwhile, Vin Diesel's got 3 times that, and he can't even blink properly. More laughter. Jason blinked slowly. His lips parted, as if to say something, but stopped. The camera zoomed in. Jason's face was unreadable now, no smile, no reaction, just razor-edge stillness. Jimmy leaned in, faux whispering into the mic. I mean, be honest, did you peak in 2011? The crowd tensed. That one landed hard. A couple of influencers in the front row exchanged awkward glances. One whispered, "Yikes." Jason didn't move. A flashback clip played, Jason at a past awards night, seated near the back. He'd been nominated for a stunt coordination achievement. The host skipped his name in the intro. The crowd clapped around him. He had smiled anyway. Back in the studio, Jimmy smirked. We dug that clip out of the archives. Always the bridesmaid, huh? This time, a ripple of unease ran through the audience. Jason looked down once, then slowly lifted his gaze. His fingers uncrossed. His shoulders shifted back, not to lash out, but to align. Kimmel, sensing a shift, tried to cut the silence. Come on, Jason. You're not offended, are you? This is just fun. Just the game. The meme economy thrives on this stuff. Jason's stare didn't waver. Jimmy, still laughing nervously, pulled one last card. All right, one more, then I'll stop. Promise. He read it out loud. Jason Statham, the same guy in every movie. It's got over 3 million likes on Reddit. What do you say? Jason spoke. One trick is still enough, when it's done better than the rest. The audience froze. For the first time all night, no laughter followed. Even Jimmy leaned back. Jason leaned forward, elbows now on the desk. The lights didn't flicker. The crowd didn't breathe. And then, Jason smiled. But it wasn't warm. It was razor-sharp. Calculated. I didn't come here to dance for clicks, he said. You wanted a clip? You just got one. The control booth blinked. The director snapped to the audio guy. Hold. Don't cut. This is it. Jimmy opened his mouth. But Jason was still speaking. You call this fun? Talking about money, worth, awards? You ever measure the worth of silence, Jimmy? The host chuckled nervously again. Jason, buddy, I think we're getting a little. Jason cut him off. Do you know what I was doing last month? I buried a mate who saved lives in real combat. Not in a film. Real. A hush washed over the crowd. You think you're funny for calling me washed up? Jason said, leaning an inch closer. I've walked away from more fires than you've ever seen on your little cue cards. Jimmy sat frozen. No cards left to read. The laughter sign stayed dark. Jason sat back slowly, eyes locked in. The crowd leaned forward. Jimmy swallowed hard, but said nothing. And the whole room knew this wasn't over. He had not said much. But now even Jimmy could feel the silence creeping toward him, louder than any laugh. Jason Statham leaned slightly forward, elbows resting on the arms of his chair. His fingers intertwined. His eyes, still, calm, sharp, locked onto Jimmy Kimmel's with quiet precision. The studio, a moment ago echoing with laughter, shifted into something colder, thicker. You think silence means weakness, Jason began, his voice level, unfazed. I think it means control. The audience shifted. A few cleared their throats. Phones lowered. Whispering stopped. Even the band, idling in the corner, seemed to retreat into the background. Jimmy's grin faltered, not completely, but the edges trembled. Jason did not glance at the cameras. His gaze remained steady. You called me one note. A stuntman who lucked out. You joked about my films. My net worth. That's fine, Jason said. But what you missed is what those stunts cost. He paused. I've broken ribs for those scenes. Had my skin torn open. I've carried crew members out of burning sets. Flown injured teammates home on my own dime. The same face you mock, that's not a performance. That's discipline. That's survival. A few murmurs ran through the audience. Someone near the front row whispered, Wait, is this real? Jason continued. You see movie posters. I see the faces of the stunt team that took hits so the story looked right. You see flops. I see jobs for people who needed one. You see a man past his prime. I see someone who still shows up every damn time without shortcuts. The screen behind them, set to display B-roll, flickered. Jimmy tried to lighten the mood. Come on, man. We're just having fun here. Jason's voice cut through like a blade. Fun stops when the joke bleeds. A hush dropped. One man in the crowd clapped. Then another. The claps died quickly, but their message lingered. Jason shifted in his seat. His tone never rose, yet the words landed with weight. You mock legacy like it's measured in statues. In awards. But real legacy. He leaned slightly forward. It leaves bruises, not trophies. It changes rooms, not ratings. Jimmy opened his mouth, but no sound came. Jason's words did not slow. I've turned down blockbusters to work with first-time directors. I've trained for roles most would fake with CGI. And I've stayed off social media, not because I can't play the game, but because I don't need the applause. A beat passed. I don't need 100 million followers to know who I am. On cue, the control room queued up a prepared flashback montage, Jason pulling a crew member out of a burning prop car. Jason, in jeans and a hoodie, helping rebuild homes in a flood zone. Jason speaking quietly at a memorial gala for a stunt performer who died on set. The screen dimmed. The applause light blinked. No one clapped. Jimmy fumbled with the cards. Well, all right then, maybe we're going a little too deep for. Jason cut in again. I didn't come here to perform. I came because a friend asked me to support his indie film. I said yes without a PR team. Without a contract. Because that's what loyalty looks like. Something you can't read off a cue card. The camera zoomed in on Jimmy's hands, one of them twitching. The cards now visibly bent. Damp at the edges. His laugh tried to return but cracked halfway out. You always been like this? Jimmy asked, trying to force a grin. So serious? Jason nodded once. Because I don't need to play along to be real. A deeper silence followed. Pain teaches you things, Jason added. It teaches you what matters. Teaches you when to speak, and when to let the silence land. The air in the studio felt taut. Jimmy looked at the audience, then at the screen, then back at Jason. He forced a chuckle. Okay, this is getting too dramatic, even for you. Jason's eyes narrowed just slightly. Dramatic is mocking a man's entire career to score a trending clip. Jimmy tried to interrupt. But it's late night, people come here to laugh. Jason replied without blinking. Then maybe laugh at your own reflection first. More than a few in the audience flinched at that. Several influencers in the front row exchanged glances. The energy in the room had turned. No longer playful. Now cautious. Jimmy reached for his mug. His hand trembled slightly. He missed the handle. It toppled over, spilling water across the desk. The silence swallowed the sound. Jason stared at him. You came for a laugh, he said, flat and final. A beat. Then he added, but you'll leave with a mirror. The studio lights dimmed slightly, uncued. A crackle in the audio line. And for the first time in years, Jimmy Kimmel had no comeback. The show aired at 11:30 p.m. By 11:45, Twitter had already detonated like a warhead, hashtags exploding, clips slicing through timelines like wildfire. The clip began simple. Jason Statham leaning forward on Jimmy Kimmel's show. The silence. The stillness. And then, his words, calm, sharp, undramatic. You came for a laugh. But you'll leave with a mirror. That was it. Just 11 words. But by the time the segment ended and the credits rolled, the internet was on fire. One Twitter user wrote, Jason Statham just served a 5-course meal of reality on a comedy plate. That tweet alone got 200,000 likes in 15 minutes. The full clip hit YouTube under the title, Jason Statham destroys Jimmy Kimmel with one sentence. In under 3 hours, it passed 3 million views. Comments flooded in like waves. That wasn't a comeback. That was a reckoning. Silence is a weapon. Jason mastered it tonight. Jimmy Kimmel brought jokes. Jason brought Judgment Day. Hashtags exploded across platforms. Hashtag Jason versus Jimmy. Hashtag Silence Speaks. Hashtag Statham Strikes Back. Hashtag Respect the Stunts. Hashtag Late Night Gone Wrong. Reddit threads lit up instantly. The most upvoted comment on r/television read, Jason Statham just delivered the most controlled takedown in TV history. No yelling. No insults. Just truth. Dozens of stunt performers jumped into the thread, sharing their first-hand stories. One wrote, he bought my kid's inhaler when production said it wasn't covered. Never asked for thanks. He's the realest man in this industry. Another commented, I worked second unit with him on The Mechanic. He stayed behind after wrap to make sure no crew member was walking to the lot alone. That guy. He's no washed-up action star. He's a fortress. Then came the celebrity support. Keanu Reeves quote-tweeted the clip and simply wrote, True strength never shouts. That got 1.2 million likes in under 2 hours. Ryan Reynolds posted a story of the moment Jason said, Fun stops when the joke bleeds, and added a fire emoji with legend. YouTube exploded too. Channels posted titles like, This wasn't just a clapback. It was a masterclass. Jason Statham just changed late night forever. Statham didn't flinch, and Kimmel fell apart. One YouTube short analyzed Jason's posture minute by minute, noting when the energy in the room shifted. Body language experts weighed in. Notice the stillness, shoulders square, hands loose. It's predator calm. Public opinion flipped almost instantly. Kimmel's fans were torn. Some defended the show, but most turned. Tweets read, Kimmel went too far. This wasn't roasting. It was humiliation disguised as humor. Statham held the line. Class and quiet strength. By the morning, mainstream news picked it up. CNN ran with the headline, When jokes go too far, Jason Statham's live confrontation sparks debate. New York Times posted an op-ed titled, When the quietest man in the room speaks, Everyone listens. Kimmel responded, but too little, too late. At 2:33 a.m., Kimmel posted a soft apology on X, formerly Twitter. Didn't mean to hit below the belt. Jason's a legend. Always has been. But the comments were savage. Too late. Damage done. You weren't joking. You were probing. Next time, know who you're mocking. Sponsors reacted swiftly. Two of the biggest segment sponsors, one fitness brand and one auto company, pulled ads by the following afternoon. Disney's legal and PR team issued a brief but telling statement. We are reviewing the tone and conduct of the episode. Standards of respect must always be upheld. Fan edits rolled in like cinematic trailers. TikToks with dramatic music layered over Jason's still, cold replies. Instagram Reels captioned. Every man who's ever been underestimated, this is for you. Someone added an epic score from Gladiator to Jason's speech and racked up 3.4 M views overnight. Memes flooded the internet. One viral meme featured a screenshot of Jason staring down Jimmy with the caption, "When the quiet guy at work finally speaks," and ends the meeting. Another had the now iconic line, "You came for a laugh. But you'll leave with a mirror," pasted over the classic Thanos, "I am inevitable" gif. The biggest twist? Late-night competition entered the chat. A major rival host, whose name we will not mention, tweeted, "Jason, anytime you want a real conversation, we've got a chair. No scripts. No setups." That post reached 600K likes in 4 hours and sparked immediate speculation. Would Jason take the seat? Was this the beginning of the end for Kimmel's late-night throne? News outlets went deeper. NPR aired a segment on The Changing Face of Late Night, discussing how celebrities no longer tolerate veiled disrespect. A Vox article headlined, "Jason Statham and the Death of the Smiling Insult." It opened with, "In an age of clapbacks and cancel culture, Jason Statham delivered something rarer, dignified defiance." That night, Variety dropped a teaser. Jason Statham in talks for exclusive one-on-one, on his terms. No desk. No jokes. Just truth. The final sentence? The man who was silenced on screen is finally setting his own stage. No press run. No interview wrap-up. Just footsteps and truth. The night air hit like a soft reset. Crisp, weightless, and exactly what Jason Statham needed. The studio door hissed shut behind him, but he never looked back. No security team. No entourage. No driver waiting with a black SUV. He just walked. Past the neon exit signs. Past the murmuring crew outside having a smoke. Past the rows of parked cars, their windshields still reflecting the heat of the studio lights. Jason pulled the baseball cap lower over his eyes. The streets of Los Angeles were quiet, unusually so. He crossed them like a shadow, the echo of his boots steady against the sidewalk. A few blocks in, he took a sharp left into a familiar alleyway, where the noise of the world softened. A memory floated up. 1998. That same alley. He had once stood here under a single flickering light bulb, rehearsing the lines to a short film no one ever saw. Young. Broke. Nobody knew his name. But the fire. It was already there. Tonight, that fire had burned again, quietly, but completely. And the world had seen it. He reached into his jacket and pulled out his phone. A wall of missed calls lit up the screen. Texts, voicemails, and DMs from names that mattered. His agent, his stunt coordinator from the transporter, his old Brazilian jiu-jitsu coach, even the quiet producer who always believed in him. But it was the short message at the top of the list that froze him. They finally saw the man I met that day. Emilio Ortega. Jason stared at it. A moment passed. Then a soft breath escaped him. Almost a laugh, but not quite. Emilio had been the shopkeeper he helped 5 years ago, during a moment far from the public eye. No camera had caught it. No news cycle ever touched it. Just a man in need, and Jason showing up. Now, the world had caught up. He slipped the phone back into his jacket and turned toward the corner where a dull, red glow burned above a dented sign. Steel Pulse Boxing. The door creaked open without resistance. The trainer inside gave a simple nod. No questions, no small talk. Just recognition. That was enough. Jason shrugged off his jacket and hoodie, revealing a plain black tee beneath. His knuckles were already wrapped. The trainer slid a pair of gloves across the table. Jason laced them slowly, deliberately, like a ritual he had repeated 1,000 times in the silence of his life. He approached the bag. The leather was cracked, stained from years of sweat and struggle. He pressed his forehead against it for a second. Then, without hesitation, the first punch landed. Clean. Sharp. Weighted. Thud. Again. Thud. A rhythm formed. Not fast. Not furious. But real. Each strike echoed like punctuation on everything he had just endured. The insults. The laughter. The silence. The shift. Thud. 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 Behind him, the gym remained quiet. No music. No chatter. Just the sound of a man fighting his own thoughts. Cut to a dim-lit edit suite at the studio. Jimmy Kimmel sat in his dressing room, the door cracked, his hair still perfect under the artificial lights. On the monitor in front of him, the show played back on mute. His own smiling face. His own jokes. His own laughter, now hollow under the weight of what followed. A cold drink sat untouched beside him, the ice melted into watery slush. His cue cards were crumpled in a heap near the trash bin, stained from the pressure of his own palm. Each bolded word, washed up, typecast, tough guy, a ghost now, staring back at him with contempt. He tried to smile. It did not work. He rewound the clip. Watched Jason lean forward. Heard that line again, even without sound. You came for a laugh. But you'll leave with a mirror. The applause that followed wasn't for him. He knew that now. Back in the gym, Jason finished his final round with a pair of rapid jabs, then stepped back, his chest rising with controlled breath. The trainer tossed him a towel. No words were needed. He sat on the edge of the ring, phone resting beside him. The screen lit up again. Unknown number. We want to offer you a lead role. No stunts. Just truth. Studio head. A-list pictures. Jason stared at the message. Not because he did not expect it, but because he no longer needed it. Still, he smiled. Just a little. As Jason reached for his phone, another message slid into view. A reporter had tweeted. Tomorrow's headline. Jason Statham didn't just show up on a talk show. He walked through fire and left the host burned. Jason locked the screen. The night air moved around him like an old friend. Quiet. Honest. Real. Some legacies are whispered. Others hit like truth through glass. The next morning, YouTube's trending page shows a new top hit. Jason Statham. Silence has a soundtrack. It is not a clip from the interview. It is a fan-made tribute. A mashup of scenes. Raw. Unfiltered. Jason behind the scenes, helping injured crew members. Quietly handing out water on a charity run. Giving a ride to a former co-star who could not afford Uber. Laughing with children on a forgotten set. A title flashes at the end. The most underrated man in Hollywood. Twitter catches fire again, but this time with a cause. Hashtag Statham's Law trends globally. The campaign. To get official recognition for stunt performers at the Oscars. Reddit opens a mega thread of stories from crew, extras, even caterers. He carried cables when the grips were short-staffed. He was the only A-lister who remembered my name. He didn't ask for attention. He asked if I had eaten. Then, a ripple hits the entertainment press. Variety releases a full-page spread. Statham was never silent. We just never listened. The cover is simple. Jason standing in the shadows of a training gym, one glove laced, sweat clinging to his shirt. More offers pour in. Action sequels. Talk show exclusives. International documentaries. He declines most. Politely. With grace. Then comes a surprise. Jason agrees to appear on one podcast. No cameras. No video. Just voice. The host asks. You were humiliated. Why not fire back right there? Jason replies, measured. I was not humiliated. I was revealed. Dignity's not loud, but it echoes longer. The episode goes viral. The quote becomes a tattoo, a hoodie design, a viral tweet pinned by actors, athletes, and activists alike. Then, in a scene that no studio cameras caught, a photo emerges on Instagram. Jason, standing at the entrance of a modest warehouse-turned-training camp in East LA. The caption, teaching what the spotlight never showed. Inside, the space is simple. Padded mats. Old bags. But it is alive, with teenagers, most from foster care, some from juvenile programs. They are not watching Jason fight. They are watching him teach how not to. A 17-year-old girl raises her hand. What's the first rule? Jason ties his glove and answers without turning. Control. They listen, not because he shouts, but because the world did. Back in Hollywood, another scene plays out. A dark, sleek studio boardroom. 5 men in suits sit around a table. One holds a remote, his fingers tight. He hits pause on the podcast clip. Jason's voice cuts through the silence one last time. Sometimes strength isn't measured by the hit, but by what you choose not to hit. A man at the end of the table sets down his coffee slowly. Gentlemen, he says, we underestimated him. A long pause follows. Then one executive whispers, not again. Final narration line. He was never there for applause. Just justice. The lights in the boardroom dim. A shadowy figure steps out from the corner. You're right. It's time we listened. Fade to black. End.